So can you tell us simply who was Socrates and why does he still matter today?
So Socrates is an ancient philosopher who lived in Greece around 2,500 years ago. He was a very humble man. He never claimed to be the son of Zeus or a prophet, never taught dogma. What he did was he used to go around Athens and start discussions with people, just strike up interesting discussions with people. He was a very curious man, and he liked to help people to find more meaning in their life by asking them questions like, what makes you happy? What is a good life for you? What is God? What is your relation to God or to the gods? You should just strike interesting conversations with people so that they could be triggered into thinking. Now, one of the main things that Socrates did was to highlight through these dialogues how people were lying to themselves, how the source of all their problems was cognitive dissonance. Okay? So what happens is we think one thing, we believe another thing, we say another thing, and we act a different thing. And all this cognitive dissonance leads to our unhappiness, and it metastasizes into a disease.
So do you think his ideas really can help someone today with stress or anxiety?
Definitely, because he helped people to think critically, like to cross-examine themselves. So he created a method, the Socratic method, is kind of pulling out answers from people. Just keep asking them, cross-checking them, so that they can see where their cognitive dissonance occurs. They can see it for themselves. Now, it makes us sometimes uncomfortable, this process. And that's one reason he got into big trouble later on and had to take poison. Well, the state ordered him to take poison, to die. He was a martyr. He died a martyr for his beliefs. But his method lives on today, and in fact, modern psychotherapy is based on the Socratic method. Cognitive behavioral therapy is based on the Socratic method.
Wow. Okay. So how about in one sentence, what do you think his most powerful teaching is?
He would say that the unexamined life is not worth living. So if you're not taking the time to regularly reflect on your thoughts, actions, the consequences of your actions, taking responsibility for your life and what's happening in your life, you are essentially a sleepwalker.
Wow. So tell me, how do you think Greek philosophy, especially Socrates, can help us today?
This method of cross-checking what people say based on fact was the basis of we call Western thinking, Western thought. In fact, like the scientific method of postulating a theory and then testing that theory, the hypothesis, and testing and cross-checking, and based on facts, arriving to the objective truth. This is what makes him the father of at least Western philosophy. And our whole justice system rests on this. So civil society rests on this. The truth. The truth is the most important thing for the Greeks. Truth, clarity, transparency. So what is the greatest tool we have? It's our logic, our reasoning, our capacity for abstract thinking, what animals don't have. And so it is our greatest superpower to apply this logic, reason, scientific thinking. And when you think about it, this is exactly what has built us to the civilization we are. Why we have rockets, why we have modern medicine, why machines work to the nanosecond, because of the scientific method. Socrates stands for living a life of integrity. To your own self be true, as was later sort of borrowed by Shakespeare. This is how you sleep well at night. This is how you prevent dis-ease, which is the lack of ease. It's this cognitive dissonance that we were talking about. And if each person did this inner work, this society would be transformed. Getting to the objective truth, having the humility to engage in dialogue, a Greek word which means the exchange of minds and ideas. So that's why Socrates engaged in dialogue, not dogma. Working on your soul, working on your mental health, and not the image. See, like in today's society, how a lot of us were caught up in our image and comparing our image to other people. And so leads to mental disease. This leads to a kind of paranoia, a kind of resentment. So he's like, do away with all of that. Just be who you are, develop what you keep developing yourself and be true, have integrity, have credibility. And this is the only thing that's important. Why you're here in a way. Besides your usual profession, you have a profession, you're a carpenter, you're a software engineer, but your real work is the inner work. To refine that, what the Greeks called arete, virtue. Okay, keep refining yourself, keep learning your whole life long. But curiosity is the beginning of wisdom. Curiosity about yourself, for example. To look at yourself like a detective would from the outside, objectively observing yourself, saying like, why did I react like that? And in this self-questioning lies our freedom. Because he showed to people that we are prisoners, that we are sleepwalkers, repeating patterns. Okay, he spoke of his student Plato spoke of the prisoner in the cave, that we are prisoners tied to a cave, looking at shadows, believing this to be the reality, and our purpose is to free ourselves from the own prison of our mind. That's very hard because you're hardwired. Your brain, as we have seen, is hardwired. So this is self-liberation.
So tell me, how was the Stoics inspired by Socrates?
Stoicism was born about 100 years after the death of Socrates, when a ship owner, who's Zeno of Citium, in other words, Cyprus, his ships were all destroyed. They were carrying a beautiful dye, the purple dye that the aristocracy liked to wear, and all his ships were destroyed. So he was financially bankrupt, made his way from Piraeus into Athens, and walked into what was a bookstore, a scroll store, because they had scrolls then. And he just fell upon the work of Socrates that Plato had written about in his dialogues, Plato being the student of Socrates. So he read about Socrates' life, his teachings, and he was very fascinated by that, and researched it, and slowly opened a school in the Stoa. The Stoa was like the arcade where people walked for shade. Okay, they walked, the stores were here, then you have the arcade, that's called the Stoa. And so people used to sit in this shaded area in the city, in the town of Athens, and discussed ideas, debated. There were always people philosophizing, like in the cafes today, you may say. And he opened a school there because he wanted to share these ideas of Socrates with people. So a bankrupt businessman essentially started it. And when the Romans came and invaded Greece, they, being a very practical bunch, not too philosophical, just of agrarian society, but managed to attack and take over Greece, they were fascinated by this philosophy that seemed so practical. And so it was taken on by the Romans and taught to the armies, to the statesmen. For example, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, all the aristocracy, all the generals studied Stoicism. Why? Because it built this emotional detachment and resilience. So it is about pulling away from your emotional reactions. And the Romans liked this objective thinking, this not reacting, controlling your anger. What do warriors need? They need to be able to control their anger, to observe themselves. One of the main tenets of Stoicism is to control the things you can control and leave to God what you can't control, right? Do everything you can about what you can control. What can you control? Your thoughts, your perspective, your beliefs, your actions, of course. So if it's raining, yes, you take an umbrella, okay? You can control taking an umbrella, but you can't complain about the rain. The rain is raining. It's not personal. So the Stoics take nothing personally. They're like, let's see what's happening here. What's the best we can do? In fact, one of the greatest teachers of Stoicism was Epictetus, a slave, a former slave, a Greek slave in Rome, who earned his freedom and came back to Greece to found a school in Nicopolis, which we passed on our trip to. Yeah. And there, the main tenet there is that happiness depends on ourselves. It's not what's happening that's upsetting you. It's your perspective of what's happening. So Stoicism has this very practical approach, this self-reflective approach that originated with Socrates. And it carried forth into modern cognitive behavioral therapy, which is the most widely acknowledged therapy, clinically tested with the best results, and often sponsored for by states like Canada or UK. These are paid-for therapies. Why? Because it has been proven to be the most practical. Now, it might not be as deep as psychotherapy, but psychotherapy can take years, and still it's going, some people would say, churning over and over the same old beliefs, okay? The victim stories, okay? With CBT, we are like, is that victim story true? Is it really true? Were there no benefits to that victimhood? Are there no other possible outcomes to this life? So, choose. There are many therapies, but CBT is based on this Socratic method of self-questioning.
So keeping that as a segue, tell us a little bit about your method, the AGIO Method.
The AGIO Method for manifesting deep, everlasting happiness, in Greek Eudaimonia, is a combination of Greek philosophy and neuroscience. There are actually 3 levels in the AGIO Method. Level 1 is about mastering your thoughts and emotions through an exercise called the Socratic test. Level 2 is taking your new narrative and helping your subconscious to absorb this new narrative through the help of self-hypnosis. Level 3 is about joining our online and in-person community that meets weekly for group coaching online and in-person retreats in Greece. Following is an example of the first exercise, level 1, the Socratic test. So, in 1 or 2 sentences, I'd like you to describe what is upsetting you lately. What is that thing that's frustrating you? It's a thought that keeps coming back to you. And try to really take note of the exact narrative that's going on in your brain. Okay? Like, oh, I will never be able to achieve X and Y goal. Something like that. On a deeper level, what are you afraid of? What are you thinking of that is actually bothering you? You're actually afraid of. what are the actual consequences you are fearing in the material world, in the outer world? What will it look like? Is it a breakup? Is it a bankruptcy? What is it? An accident? What is the thing that you're afraid that will appear in your life? And now I want you to think a little deeper and say, now, what would that imply about you? Okay, what would that imply about you personally, about your value, about your worth? Like a lot of people think, if that happens, then that means that I'm not worthy. So that would be the intrinsic fear that you have, that you are not worthy. Just take a moment and write down your answer. So just a moment, observe how it makes you feel when you believe that that thought is real. When that inner narrative seems true to you. What does it do with you mentally, physically, emotionally, psychologically, energetically? How does your energy feel? It probably lowers it, right? But just try to observe more where you might have even some pain or some manifestation like an eczema or a headache or just very low energy. What does it feel like for you when you believe that narrative? You are doing very well so far. You have done some digging and found the limiting lies or stories or narrative that you have been telling yourself that have been draining you of energy and enthusiasm. Now, are you ready to transform your fear into freedom? That's great, but first I will tell you a short anecdotal story about Socrates, one of the greatest philosophers ever to have lived. So I want you to travel back in ancient Athens. Socrates is taking a stroll to see the sunset over the calm blue horizon of the Aegean, when an acquaintance runs up to him excitedly and says, "Socrates, do you know what I just heard about one of your students?" "Wait a moment," Socrates replies. "Before you tell me, I'd like you to pass a little test. It's called the test of 3. Test of 3? Yes, Socrates continues. Before you talk to me about my student, let's take a moment to test what you're going to say. The first test is truth. Have you made absolutely sure that what you're about to tell me is true?" "No," the man replies. "Actually, I just heard about it from someone." "All right," says Socrates, "so you don't know if it's really true. Now let's try the second test, the test of kindness. Is what you're about to tell me about my student something good?" "No, on the contrary." "So," Socrates continues, "you want to tell me something bad about him, and you're not even certain that it's true." The man shrugs, a little embarrassed. Socrates continues, "You may still pass, though, because there is a third test, the test of usefulness. Is what you want to tell me about my students going to be useful to me?" "Well, not really." "So," Socrates says, "if what you want to tell me is neither true, nor good, nor useful, then why tell it to me at all?" As this story reveals, there are 3 filters that we can pass our thinking and our beliefs through before we allow them to dwell in our minds and cause havoc. The first is it true? Now this represents ethos. Consider things like integrity, credibility, and the accuracy of your thoughts. The second is representing kindness.
And we can align this with pathos, considering our feelings, our emotions, compassion, kindness, empathy. And the third, is it useful, represents logos. And under this category, practicality, applicability, facts, and strategies. You have to therefore become a witness to your own thought streams and encourage yourself to think thoughts which are useful in order to keep it healthy and productive. Thoughts that do not pass the test of 3, the Socratic test, this elenchos I'm discussing, should not be taking place in your mind. Okay? Just imagine a ship. Okay, a ship doesn't sink from the water that surrounds it, but from the water that comes in through the holes in the ship. So, you being that ship should be repairing the holes and not allowing the water to come in and flood you.
So back to your inner story, the one you wrote on D&D earlier. Is that story 100% true? Interrogate the belief or that inner narrative. Ask yourself, am I perhaps dramatizing the situation and overblowing its importance? Am I perhaps generalizing and assuming things that are not 100% true? Am I perhaps over-personalizing, taking offense too easily, or even blaming myself for matters that are not related to me? Once you have decided, tick the box below that best represents your answer. Being kind has a lot to do with changing perspective, seeing things differently. So have a look at this optical illusion, as it will help you broaden your perspective. In this optical illusion, some people see an old lady, others see a young lady. Now ask yourself, is this story that I have been telling myself kind? Is it kind towards myself? Is it kind towards the other people involved? Is that story or narrative from D&D useful to you? If you keep repeating it to yourself, is that going to be useful to you?
Now, just imagine for a moment, who could you be if you didn't have that thought? Who would you become if you were not burdened by this thought and you didn't tell yourself this narrative all the time? What kind of thoughts would you be having instead? How would your life be able to change? So, could you imagine letting go of that narrative that you've been holding? So, how much time would you need to be able to let go of that thought? Could you imagine letting go of that in a year's time? I mean, maybe it's something very big and it's a big trauma and you think, I'm not ready to let go or forgive. But in a year's time, what about 6 months' time? What about a month's time? How about a week from now, you'd be willing to let it go? Or let's talk about here and now. Some of you may be willing to let go of that thought here and now. Is that you? Are you able to free yourself now? And lastly, I'd like you to take a moment to rewrite that thought, rewrite that narrative. Just take a few moments and rephrase it so that it is more true, okay? For example, if you had the thought, I'll never be able to lose these 20 kilos, you can say, I believe that I can lose these 20 kilos if I work hard every day do my workout, follow the diet that the doctor told me. I can do this. That would be an alternative thought. So you have to create a new thought in this case. Replace the old programming. Replace the old compulsive narrative with a narrative that is more true, more kind, and more useful to you, right? Just formulate. I want you to get into your creative mode, open up the horizon, look at this from above, and really say, what thought could I think instead of having that compulsive thought all the time bringing me down? Feel more courageous, more powerful, more empowered to go ahead and overcome what it is that you've been stuck with. So I hope that that exercise has been useful. Now, once you have formulated your new empowering narrative, your new empowering belief, it's important to help your subconscious to absorb it deeply. And that's when you move to level 2, the exercise that has to do with an inner guided meditation. This basic exercise taught within the AGIO Method is for inducing a calm, relaxed, and harmonious state of body, mind, and spirit. It is also conducive to programming the subconscious mind for realizing a specific instruction or mission. For example, to realize your personal mission statement. The process of consciously controlling your imagination in dreams has been around for centuries, since ancient Greek times, when Morpheus, the ancient Greek god of dreams, was venerated. Many temples, including Epidavros, Delphi, and Ephesus, and others, contained a special area for dream incubation, where pilgrims were induced into a sort of sleep trance for dreaming, with the intention of healing or meeting a particular divinity, receiving a message or insight about their illness. The Greek word hypnagogia literally means sleep channeling or sleep learning. Today, modern doctors recommend the practice of deeply relaxing inner states of body, mind, and spirit. And you should practice that, they say, at least 20 minutes a day to help us manage stress and anxiety in a natural, non-clinical or chemical way. Furthermore, scientific studies have proven that in a relaxed state, the body is more than 200 times more receptive to suggestions. In addition, when we introduce the personal mission statement or affirmation during this practice, it can begin to bring a positive, powerful change. If you are practicing any religion, the deep relaxation can also enhance your spiritual experience and euphoria. Here are the benefits of this deep relaxation. It calms your nerves, helps you handle stress, cultivates the process for self-induced relaxation at will. Whenever you want to relax yourself, you can do that because you've trained it. It increases your mindfulness, allowing you to become more intuitive. It offers a space to insert a deeply empowering mission statement for personal transformation. For example, I've lost 10 kilograms, or I've stopped smoking, I am smoke-free. It can also reduce headaches and skin conditions and other psychosomatic ailments. It's no wonder that
top athletes and CEOs use this kind of hypnotherapy or meditation. In the Harvard Medical School Journal, Dr. Max Shapiro, psychologist, said that it is now known that the brain has a greater ability to influence the body than previously acknowledged. A hypnotic trance empowers people to activate the neural circuits that are otherwise hidden. This circuitry can activate greater comfort and bring pain relief, greater mental focus for certain activities, and greater self-esteem. Now, to get you into a relaxed state, open to suggestion, to reprogram your subconscious mind, receive positive instructions. To perform this exercise, all you have to do is to listen to a guided meditation that I have prepared for you. There are many others on the internet, but you can click the link below so that you can use mine to begin with. So this exercise should be done daily, or at least weekly if you want to see results. So first, you find a place that you will not be disturbed for 20 minutes. Switch off your mobile device so that you're not going to be disturbed. Close the door, put a note on the door if you're afraid someone might knock on the door. Lay on the bed, a yoga mat, a carpet, or even a reclining chair. Cover yourself with a light blanket or throw a jacket on top if you don't have a blanket around, because it will make you more protected, as your temperature will also drop slightly during relaxation. Lay back with your legs slightly apart and your arms rested by your side with the palms facing upwards. This is the Shavasana position in yoga. You just press play and simply listen to my soothing voice that will guide you along a beautiful and relaxing inner landscape. For example, walking along a beach or going up a mountain to a beautiful temple. Now, during the MP3, somewhere in the middle of your guided journey, there is a special section where you will be prompted by your guardian or guide, and they're going to prompt you to repeat a suggestive statement. This is any kind of pre-chosen positive affirmation or mission statement. You're going to repeat it mentally 3 times. For example, it could be the goal you want to realize. I am living in love. I am living in joy. I am receiving abundance. I am grateful, and so on. Any positive affirmation that you want realized. Now, during the deep relaxation, you will feel connected on an emotional level to this affirmation. Don't just repeat it like a robot mentally. Connect with it emotionally. Feel grateful for it. Believe and see it being true. Deeply grateful that, yes, I have lost 10 kilograms. I am attracting abundance. So as you do this every day, it will be like watering a seed that will grow and flourish. It will begin to transform your life in positive ways and will rewire your brain for definite manifestation. So it's a very relaxing experience. So get to it. All you have to do is click on the link below and have your own experience. Let me know how this experiment works out for you within the next 30 days. Lots of love from beautiful Greece. Level 3 is all about bringing it together through coaching and community. No man is an island. Together we can support each other through our weekly coaching and monthly retreats here on the Athens Riviera.